I wish that at some point I could sit down and make a video and not be so fucking pissed off at the world. So, it's been a heavy-duty week since the last time I came on YouTube. A lot has happened, and it's getting worse. I think everything is getting progressively worse. See what I did there? The Rittenhouse trial, which I can't go into great depth on here because I'm not sure where YouTube stands on the censorship. Obviously, some people have been on here talking about it, but I've specifically avoided it on YouTube because I'm already fucking on thin ice and I don't want to get banned. However, I did make a long podcast, shameless fucking plug here, on ScottTheTruckDriver.com. I recorded a 2-hour, I think 30-minute podcast about the verdict and what it meant and what I thought the actual failure was and stuff like that. So if you're interested in any of that, I know some of you are probably sick of it. I know I am. I'm fucking sick of it at this point. I know I'm sick of it at this point. And it's just the whole thing is making me ill in terms of all the stupidity surrounding it. I mean, it's getting worse. You see, something that has been a trend since 2020 and the rise of BLM has been a removal of funding from the people that are there to serve and protect you. And yes, there's cops that don't do that. There's cops that are pieces of shit. But there's some cops that actually do their job, just not in Democrat cities anymore. But we do need law enforcement, and we need a justice system that cares about justice, that is blind to skin color, no matter what that skin color is, by the way. Justice that is served equally across the board to anybody who commits crime, particularly violent crime. If you want to be lenient on nonviolent crime, I could probably be a little supportive of that, unless they're starting flash mobs and running into stores and pretty much endangering every worker in the store while stocking up for Black Friday with all of the things and running out the fucking door, which seems to be the current trend in Democrat progressive cities, by the way, across the country. Why? Because the people doing that know that on the off chance that they get caught in a world where everybody can wear a mask and no problem there, they're probably going to get a slap on the hand, get it busted down to a lower charge, be out on the street within a day, maybe 2, depending on how bad it was. Probably keep all the shit they stole in this process and be ready to do it again next week. And this is what happens when you mix politics and particularly race-driven politics in a system that should be blind to skin color. Now, some would argue that we're in this mess because it wasn't blind to skin color. And yes, I agree, there was a time that was the case. But now there seems to be a mentality that if you're of some skin colors, that we should just look the other way when you commit crime. If you commit crime, you should do the time no matter what the color of your skin is. And because of this, our world is no longer safe. Murder rates have skyrocketed. Crime is up across the board, and it's only going to get worse. Now, 2 days after the Rittenhouse verdict, we now have an individual, a person of color, by the way, drive his car and intentionally try to kill people in a Christmas parade. Great way to kick off the holiday, right? This person, they won't tell you the motive. Although there are some anecdotal evidence to show that he was calling for indiscriminate ending of white people. And I think being 2 days after the Rittenhouse verdict is more than a coincidence. But leaving that aside, his motivations aside, he shouldn't have been on the street to begin with. The DA, who was progressive, let him out after he posted $500 of his $1,000 bail on the street after running over his girlfriend with his car. And here we are today. He was committing another crime just before he committed the atrocity, the massacre that the left media is calling an accident. He should not have been on the street. And that goes for any criminal. Just like the first person that Kyle Rittenhouse, that assaulted him and he defended himself against, was a 5-time convicted child offender of the worst kind out on the street. Repeat offender. With clearly demonstrated throughout the videos of his behavior that night, is not reformed member of society and is a danger and menace to society. We are putting violent criminals out on the street because we're replacing blind justice with social justice. It doesn't work. So, you've already figured out that defunding law enforcement doesn't work. And now you're figuring out that bail reform and putting violent criminals out on the street does not work either. How many more people have to die for your progressive fucking politics, Democrats? And I place this completely in the far left fringes of Democrat politics, which should be denounced if you're a moderate Democrat at this point. But I'm not. I'm hearing crickets chirping. You got the left, both in government and the mainstream media, downplaying this because it doesn't fit their narrative, their social justice narrative. And it's on the heels of them trying to destroy the life of somebody who was legit defending themselves. Now, I want to make another addendum to my podcast, as a lot of people are drawing comparisons between the incident around Ahmaud Arbery, or however you pronounce his name, which is, if you're not familiar, a 25-year-old black man that was suspected by 3 white men of burglarizing a house, and then they chased him down and shot him, allegedly when he tried to go for one of their guns. That was not self-defense for those people, and they should be in prison for 2 very important reasons. See, Kyle Rittenhouse was ruled self-defense because he was fleeing and being attacked, life-threatening attacks, in the process of him trying to get away. Case closed there. Self-defense all day. The difference here is these men were taking the law into their own hands. The argument being you can do a citizen's arrest. I'm sorry, no. We have police, and if people start taking the law into their own hands, which you're going to see more of if we get this continued failure of our justice system, by the way, they were chasing them down. They were being vigilantes, which is illegal, by the way. And you cannot chase someone and claim self-defense. Within 5 minutes of hearing just the basic outline of that case, I knew they were guilty. Because they were pursuing him. If they'd have just let him get away, called the cops, nobody be dead, and the guy would be out on bail 3 days later. Sorry, but that's the reality of it. This is the flaw of the system now. This is the flaw of also mainstream media stirring up hatred, division amongst people of all colors. And it's going to get worse. How long before we get a retaliation for the Christmas parade massacre? Where does it end? It ends when we denounce crimes, regardless of race, when we denounce evil, no matter what color it is, where we don't afford some criminals a free pass while throwing the books at others. And this can go no matter what race you are. It seems to be politically motivated, because there's plenty of white people on the left that get thrown back out on the streets because of their political leanings, or because they're associated with certain political groups. They get a pass to do pretty much anything. It's like medieval fucking world out there. At what point do we say enough? I do feel like there are more people saying enough is enough. The post-verdict looting, has been at a minimum, but then we got this Christmas massacre. I believe, this is my opinion, that it's not a fucking coincidence, particularly when he has posted repeated things about BLM and about violence against white people in his social media. And if you're looking for a motive, where do you look? It wasn't an accident, as MSNBC would like to put it. He wasn't fleeing the cops. Cops weren't even chasing him. He was a simple, evil man who should not have been out on the streets, has shown a propensity for violence, has said he will commit violence, and followed through on it. And he was allowed to do it because social justice and shit, progressivism, bail reform. Let me talk about bail for a minute and what I think the bail system should be. Now, understanding why we have a bail system, probably key to this. The bail system is in place because you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Well, clearly that's been out the window now that we've got the media destroying lives and causing harm and violence against people with their rhetoric and their lies. So now you could be convicted before you even see a courtroom. And that's a problem in and of itself. How many people have died on that altar? How many people have been assaulted, had all of their goods, either stolen or burnt to the ground as a result of the court of public opinion and the jury and executioner being the media, who I think should be held accountable for all of this, by the way, along with these prosecutors and DAs that have allowed this to go on. And we're not just talking about the Christmas massacre. This has been an ongoing problem for years now, particularly in blue cities. Violent repeat offenders being put back out on the street almost the next day because of bail. It is a system that is being corrupted and abused for political reasons. And it needs to stop. And in my opinion, bail should be removed. Well, the immediate argument to that is, what about somebody who's innocent? And particularly, somebody will point out the skin color of that person, but I am applying it to all races here. What if that person is innocent and sitting in jail? Like, say, Kyle Rittenhouse, for example, because his lawyer fucked him over, sat in jail for 180 days, found not guilty, acquitted of all charges. I believe instead of having bail and allowing you to be set on the street, even in this case, you should spend your time in jail until your court date. I believe we need faster court dates, of course. Rome wasn't built in a day. That in alone will be a deterrent, by the way. You think all the people flash mobs shoplifting would be doing so if they knew they were going to have to sit in a jail cell until their court date at the bare minimum? Is it worth all that extra time in jail? Hope you like the watch you stole or the, whatever. No, it'd be a deterrent. People wouldn't be doing that if they knew they were going to have to sit in jail waiting for their court date, which can take 180 days or longer. And I think that that should be even across the board. And if you're found not guilty in the court of law at that point, you should be compensated for the time, the same way you compensate jurors or anything else when you're forced to do something. You should be compensated for that time, and the condition shouldn't be like, of your confinement shouldn't be hardcore prison level until you're found guilty. So, yeah, keep them secure, keep them away from the public until such time that they can get their trial, and make sure that trial happens in an expedient manner. No bail for anyone. None. Zero, zilch. Will this result in some innocent people sitting behind bars? Yes. But it will also save lives. This is completely opposite to what the DA in the Christmas parade deal is quoted as saying. He knew that he guaranteed that somebody was going to die because of his bail reform policy, but it was worth it. Tell all those people that are injured or dying, including the children, that it was worth it. It's worth it. So that criminals can walk on the streets on the off chance that they're innocent. Follow this to its logical conclusion, people. When you do these things, they have consequences that you can't stop, no matter how many fake news stories you plaster all over the fucking channels. The fact is, our streets are going to be less safe. People are going to die. Regardless of skin color, by the way. Because of the way the system is set up for you to be lenient on violent criminals. Largely based on the color of their skin, by the way. Or their political leanings. You're just setting us up for failure. And maybe that's what they want. Some have argued it's intentional. I've heard that argument, particularly out of Republicans on this. And that may be. But at the same time, these are elected local positions. This is the politics of the people that put these people in their position to begin with. And they're not learning from it. And they're not being allowed to learn from it. As you see, the propaganda machine spin this. This is nothing less than a failure of the justice system that led to that massacre. We need to stop this, I think. It's just my opinion. Justice needs to be blind to politics and to race. If you make it about race and politics, we don't have a justice system anymore, and people will die and suffer. I watch a lot of true crime. I can tell you there were so many murders I've looked at in cases over the years that would not have happened had they been locked up the first time they were violent. Plenty of which were on bail, and it was regardless of their skin color, by the way, because you can't put that policy in place and say, no, this is just for one particular race. No, it's applied across the board. If you do bail reform because you want to let somebody out on the basis on the color of their skin, you have to do it for everyone, and otherwise you're not doing it equal and you're being racist in that case. And when you do it for everyone, you're going to let every criminal, violent offender slip through the cracks. Defunding the cops and progressivism and wokeism in our court systems is eroding the integrity of the last bastion of protection that you have in this country, of your freedom. And that's the judicial system. And it was struggling to begin with. There's corruption out there. There's people being wrongfully put in prison. There's people that are being wrongfully convicted. And that fight needs to happen. You need to fight for those people. But you don't fight for those people by letting violent criminals out on the street in case they might be innocent. That's not how it works. And if I were accused of a crime and thrown in jail, awaiting my court date, but presumed innocent until proven guilty, I wouldn't want to be bailed out, because then that means that violent person would be bailed out too. No, pay me when I'm found not guilty. Pay me for my time. Treat me okay in there. Don't treat me, the same way that you treat people who are convicted. Give me a nice room that I can't leave. And compensate me appropriately if I'm found not guilty. I am okay with that. But don't take your time. Don't drag your feet. I could see some abuse going on there. Have a set amount of time that you can take between the time you're arrested and the time you face your court date and your verdict, essentially. But that in and itself, I would be behind, simply because it would be a deterrent to criminals. It'd make them think twice if they knew that if they got caught, that they were at the bare minimum going to spend that initial time in jail until their court battle is done. I'm willing to pay that price, I think. And I think any good person should do that, because statistically speaking, more violent offenders are being set free than innocent individuals. Get rid of the bail system. Compensate people who are found not guilty after the fact. And treat them better while you have them incarcerated awaiting trial. And the compensation should be significant as well for people who are not guilty. That way you keep people from being wrongfully thrown in jail for a crime they didn't commit, because it would be a disincentive financially to do so. So you do that, you're going to clean up this entire situation. That massacre at the parade wouldn't have happened. Kyle Rittenhouse might not have had to defend himself had those 3 violent criminals, 4 if you count Flying Kick Guy, been taken off the streets in the same manner. If they knew they didn't have a pass to loot, riot, and burn shit that night, they wouldn't have been out there. And to this day, the one who survived has had no charges levied on him, despite carrying an illegal handgun and threatening Kyle with it. And that's a white guy, by the way, out on the street. There's a price for thinking you're virtuous. There's a price for your politicizing of everything. And this is politicized. That already, this Christmas massacre has been politicized. And it's the right politicizing it right now. I don't give them a pass on that. But the fact that that's the state of it, that we can't, just look at it as an evil individual who should have been in jail, and that this person put them on the street and allowed this to happen, knowing full well it would happen. Admitted. That statement right there, that DA or prosecutor or whatever should be removed from office immediately. Recall immediately. Due to admission of guilt. Knew what was going to happen. Knew it was inevitable. Guaranteed it's going to happen, and it'll happen again. But it's worth it. That's criminal. But they're getting a pass. Why? Because they're playing for the right team. You can't do this. And expect to be safe. And the bluer your city, the less safe you're going to be. I'm telling you. Once again, you'll have to vote with your feet, like I've been saying. I'm tired. I'm exhausted from this last week of events and just trying to keep up with it. And I need some time. All right. I need to take a break. So I've decided that starting tomorrow, Thanksgiving, I'm on break for at least a week, if not longer. Maybe 2 weeks. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how I feel. We'll see if I can avoid getting triggered, which will bring me back to creating content, obviously. But I can't keep doing this all the time. It's definitely affecting me in a negative way. So I need to take some time to relax. I need to, do stuff that has nothing to do with current events. I need to make some music. I haven't been making music. I did sit down the other night and start putting together and composing a new song, but I've lacked a lot of inspiration because of the way things are. And so I kind of need to put my head in the sand for a few weeks. I'm sure the world will still be burning when I get back. And I'm also seeing now the White House is trying to get the courts to reinstate the mandate. So there's that. So that battle's not over, apparently. I was hoping they would just give up on it, but they're not, because they can't admit they're wrong, which is another part of the problem. And as far as I'm concerned, I disavow the Democratic Party at all costs now. Republicans, they're corrupt, but Democrats are fucking destroying this country at this point. I don't like either side, but who's doing the most damage? Who's costing the most lives? Who's destroying our way of life, our freedom, taking everything away, making it hard to even fucking survive financially? Only one place to lay the blame. And it ain't Trump. I hate that, because I know when I'm talking about this stuff, I'm automatically pissing off 50% of people who identify as Democrat. And I would say to those people, I would have more respect for the Democrat Party if they called out the worst on their side, but they don't. They turn a blind eye every time when someone on their side steps out of line. Republicans do it too, by the way. Which they don't get a pass for in my book either. I have respect for a politician who will condemn somebody in their party who has stepped out of line, who is doing illegal things, who is promoting stuff like progressive bail reform that puts violent offender on the street so he can kill people. Call it out. Call out the violent riots instead of calling everyone a protester. I told you, and I said this in the podcast, a protester is somebody who walks around with a sign maybe blocks some traffic, maybe stands in your way, yells at you as you walk by. That's a protester. A violent rioter is looting, beating people, killing people, throwing Molotov cocktails at shit, destroying businesses and property, assaulting you as you walk by. That's a rioter. Why do I, a simple individual on the fucking internet, know this, yet our president doesn't seem to know it? All the Democrats in Congress don't seem to know it. Our vice president definitely doesn't fucking know it. Mainstream media doesn't know it. Except for Fox News, apparently. So Republicans are doing it. But they're only doing it because they want to fight the Democrats. They're not doing it because they care about you. Think Fox News cares about you when they're telling you that shit? No, they care about their side. It's tribalism at its best. Start caring about each other. Start taking better care of each other. Start calling out evil where it is, regardless of what political leanings that it is or what the color of the person's skin is. Evil is evil. And it comes in all colors, all shapes, all sizes. Call it out and I'll respect you. Denounce the bad things that happen on your side of the house. And this goes for Republicans too. And I'm talking about the Ahmaud Arbery verdict there. I think it was a just call. They should go to prison. They chased him down. They shot him. Wasn't their job. They weren't sworn to protect and uphold the Constitution of the United States the way a police officer is supposed to be. They took it upon themselves to be vigilantes, and then in the process of that, killed somebody. Burglary is not punishable by death, last I checked. And it also begs the question, though, what would possess them to do that? Is it racism? Or is it a failure of our judicial system to keep criminals off the streets? You got to ask these tough questions if you want to be safe. If you want to have a society to begin with.
Surprise, motherfucker.
If you want anarchy, we're on our way. So, some anarchists are cheering for the shit. But what the fuck do I know? I'm not an expert. I'm just an asshole. This is all opinion. Do your own homework. Come to your own conclusions. And start calling out. Regardless of your political leanings, the color of your skin. Start calling out evil. No matter what shape, form, political structure, or skin color it has. Evil is evil, people. Call it out. And then maybe we'll make this a safer place. All of this shit would not have happened had the law been enforced, had people been who are convicted or arrested for violent crimes not immediately been put back out on the street. None of this would have happened. You wouldn't have had the whole riot that ended up with Kyle Rittenhouse in his situation of being attacked. You wouldn't have had any of these problems if you'd have kept these criminals off the streets. If you'd have done your fucking jobs. As a prosecutor especially. A cop can only do so much. He can put you in jail. Then it's up to the DA and the prosecutor to convict you. And if they choose to not bother, the cop isn't going to bother to arrest somebody. That's why you see the flash looting mobs in the blue cities on the left coast. Because they know that the cops aren't going to do anything about it. And would you put your life on line as a police officer to see a criminal, violent criminal, walk the streets the next day? Is it worth the risk? And I argue that it's your duty to. You signed up for it. And you should just keep plugging away. Maybe just the act of arresting them a bunch of times will dissuade them from committing crimes. But at the end of the day, it's your politics that are driving this. It's the mainstream media narrative that is sowing hatred, division on on all of us. It's really dividing us. It's really turning us against each other. And they aren't the ones dying. They aren't the ones at risk. They sit in their ivory tower, tell you you're a victim, make you angry, and then sit back and make money off of that anger. It's a damn shame. Anyways, that's it for this fucking video. Please check out my Scott the Truck Driver radio podcast. There's now 3 episodes available. So if you haven't listened to those yet, that should keep you busy for the next week or 2, because I'm not going to put out any other content except maybe some music if I do get creative. I'm hoping. If you see music from me, things are going good. We'll just put it that way. But I do need a break from current events for a few weeks. Don't worry, I'll pick up the torch and carry on, but I do need a break. I need a fucking break. I need to get my head straight. I need to, I need to do some soul searching, and I can't do that if I'm constantly looking into current events, which I have to do if I'm going to make these fucking videos and the podcast. If you like this video and you want more fucking videos after my break, please head to ScottTheTruckDriver.com. Leave a tip in the virtual tip jar. While you're there, sign up for my free email list. I notify you whenever I put out a video, whenever I do a live stream or a premiere, or whenever I post a new podcast to the store, which is just $5 an episode. Pick and choose the ones you're interested in, obviously. And if you don't, oh well. It's not. You still get plenty of content here on YouTube because I talk a lot. So there's that. Try and have a good holiday for those of you who celebrate Thanksgiving. If you haven't politicized that shit to like Friendsgiving, don't get me started. But yeah, whatever you might be celebrating in the next day or 2, try and turn off the fucking news. Focus on family and friends. Focus on your life and not the shit show that is our our politics in our country at this point. And maybe you'll have a good holiday at that point. So, as for me, I'm going to try and make some music. I'm going to try and be around friends and family. I'm going to probably watch some very old TV shows like Battlestar Galactica I'm rewatching right now, because I'm pissed off at Hollywood and their stupidity, so I'm just like, I ain't giving them money anymore. Fuck them. Same for Netflix, by the way. I'm basically going old school. I'll probably go on Black Friday. I might go to the pawn shop and see if they're running a sale on their already heavily discounted used products, so that I don't put any money in the corporate coffers. Just saying. And I minimize the sales tax I'm paying when I do that. So there's that. As for trucking, I don't know. There's multiple things that are occurring, not just with the possible pursuit of the mandates, which 2 million truckers, I believe, have already said they're going to fuck off from trucking if you put that mandate in place, by the way. But leaving that aside, there's some things happening in my personal life which may prevent me from going over the road. We'll have to see how that plays out. But it's not looking as optimistic as I was when the court shot down the mandate. So I'll keep my ear to the ground. It's a good thing I did get super excited and go right out and hop in a truck, because that would be a disaster. Also, I want to thank those of you who have contributed over the past month. You are getting me through the winter. And I appreciate you. The fact that I can make this content and that you value it enough to support me in doing so, it does keep a decent amount of faith in the world for me. And it also helps me to know that I'm not the only one out here. I'm not out here by myself going, hey, this is all bullshit. This is fucking sucks. Can we stop doing stupid shit? Can we just fucking stop? It's nice to know I'm not the only one saying, whoa, enough already. And that does help keep me going, because if I didn't have that, I don't know. I don't know where I'd be right now. So, have a nice motherfucking holiday and shit. Turn off the media. I mean, shit. I'll filter it for you. I'll get pissed off for you so you can have a good life. And shit. I'll try. I know it's a lot. It's hard not to get triggered. It's hard to not just be exposed to it. Like, I could be trying to avoid it, and I still get it. It pops up in my feeds. People fucking talk about it when I'm out socializing. I'll be sitting down to eat in a diner or something, and it'll be fucking on CNN, and I'll be like, fuck!